覇王丸 VS シャルロットいざ尋常に1本目勝負
What's up, dudes? Max here, and I'm back with some impressions of a game that's going to be coming out later this year that I have very much been anticipating. Many of you guys might not know, but I played a lot of KOF 14, and that game featured a lot of characters that I personally absolutely loved, and I thought they came out amazing. And a lot of KOF 14 is some of my favorite stuff in modern day fighting games. That game is extremely fun, the combos are ridiculously fun, and the character's mobility is also a ton of fun. So, naturally, one of my favorite SNK properties, ever since I was a kid, was Samurai Shodown. I played an absolute metric ton of Samurai Shodown in arcades, and probably not a lot beyond Samurai Shodown 1 and 2. But we have dabbled here and there in some classic Sam shows back in the day, so I was very much curious what the new Samurai Shodown was going to play like, and I had the opportunity to play the game against people for about 2.5 hours and another hour and a half of figuring things out. So I got a fair amount of time with the game to sort of figure things out and talk with the developers, and let's talk about that. For anyone that's curious about Samurai Shodown, if the new game is going to be deviating from the old practices of classic Sam Show, I am pretty reliably able to tell you that no, this game is Samurai Shodown as hell. Is it going to have crazy, insane combos? Is it going to have, ridiculous types of mobility and super jumps and all this? And it's probably not. It's going to have some stuff. It's going to have running. It's going to have maybe 2 to 3 hit combos for the most part. But the old aspects of Samurai Shodown, which is a heavily grounded footsie game that relies insanely on high risk, high reward, and very high damaging attacks and special moves, is going to be the core of this game. One thing the developers told me, the lead combat designer, which is Neo G, he was responsible for a lot of classic Capcom fighting games, as well as KOF 14 because he now works at SNK. He was working on this game, and one of his most favored fighting games is actually Samurai Shodown 2, and that is very reflective. So a lot of what stays true to a lot of mechanics in something like Samurai Shodown 2 is present in this game, and it really feels like a modern day take on the classic Samurai Shodown. So what can you expect? It isn't the exact same as the older games, because one of the things I like about Samurai Shodown rebooted, which is what this is the fact that you have a lot more defensive options, and they take defensive options from other SNK games. So there is a traditional parry. You can actually parry an opponent's attack. You can disarm opponents just like Samurai Shodown 2, and you're left essentially weaponless at some times, and you can pick your weapon up back off the ground. That stuff is all extremely fun. You can also catch people's weapons and disarm them if they choose to strike you when you go for a catch attack. So that really crazy hype mechanic that was in Sam Show 2 is also present in this game. But they added some stuff from other games, like there's a straight dodge mechanic, like classic SNK dodge, where you sidestep a little bit and then you are able to dodge strikes. And that leaves you with an opportunity to sort of respond and get your own attack in. There's also just defense in the game, similar to other SNK games like Fatal Fury. You can press back right as you're being attacked, and you do a just defend to sort of get yourself a little bit better recovery in a situation where you're blocking attacks. If you manage to land the just defend. I don't think any of these could be done in the air. When you're in the air, you're relatively open. Like a lot of the characters, if there is jumping attacks, you have to do reliable anti-airs, because similar to classic Samurai Showdowns, your weapons sort of reflect off of the opponent. So there is some block string situations, but a lot of the special moves felt kind of unsafe, like the classic Samurai Shodown, and it's more about feeling each other out. However, there's a couple of big issues with classic Sam Show games, and it's that it can be kind of hard to open the opponent up. A lot of those games require an extreme amount of patience and waiting for the next attack to happen. So you get a lot of these crazy moments where each character isn't really doing anything, just waiting for the next thing to happen as the timer goes down. I don't think that's going to be as much an issue in the new Samurai Shodown, because they identified that, and they're like, well, we need more ways you can open up the opponent. So they changed overheads and they changed grabs. There's a universal overhead option where every character can do a short hop, and sort of stab the opponent if they're blocking. It doesn't lead to combo opportunities or crazy damage, but it makes the opponent think twice about constantly blocking low. And the throw mechanic in the game is specifically designed to get the opponent to think about just blocking all the time, because throws in Samurai Shodown lead to combos. They actually lead to a state where you can get a heavy attack off on the opponent, or a big strike, or even some quicker supers. There is opportunities to get pretty good damage. For example, Halmaru can do his running slash, and his running slash is cancelable, so you can do running slash into his big uppercut. And it led to like a solid like 25-30% damage. Everything is very damaging in this game, but if you do manage to grab somebody, it does lead to sort of like scaled damage. So it doesn't do like the crazy 70 and 80% damage that you see in the game. Everything hurts a lot in Samurai Shodown, and that's the point, is that it's high risk, high reward. And I'm glad that grabs are there, because grabs have a huge amount of a recovery period. Like if you whiff it and somebody neutral jumps, you're gonna get a free big ass punish. And that is refreshing. Like there is a thought process behind everything in this game. And it is a delicate balance of like someone throws out an attack, you whiff punish that attack, or someone throws out an attack and you call it by sidestepping or just defending. Seeing all that stuff happen and disarming the opponent and having to go pick up the weapon again and all this insane stuff is actually really refreshing, and it's one of the things I enjoyed the most about Samurai Shodown back in the day. It is a heavily footsies grounded-based game. The mobility options aren't insane, the walk speeds aren't super fast, but you do have a run. Like I said, use like a dashing slash. Every character has like their run slash sort of moves, but every character has access to huge damage in terms of supers and like the POW gauge that builds up, which is called something else, and I can't remember what it is immediately. But your character, when this gauge gets built and you take damage, you get access to new types of supers that you can only do when the gauge is on fire and filled up. And similar to classic Samurai Shodown games, you do enhanced damage in that opportunity. But there are ways to burn that gauge off completely, where if you use an activation mechanic, which actually like slows the background down and the visual effects of the entire game change, you get access to a very easy to use like slashing dash attack that is fast as holy hell and does really good damage, but is super unsafe. And I don't think any of the supers in this game actually had like invincibility. I don't think you can just throw things out willy-nilly with these super attacks. It felt like they were all stuffable and then punishable, at least some of them afterwards. Some of them felt like they could be kind of safe. So a lot of it, like I said, it all ties into that risk-reward aspect of the game, where if you're going to throw this thing out, you're not just going to throw out a super out of complete nowhere. You're going to get hurt pretty hard, or they're going to do their super against you, and then, whap, you've lost like 80% of your life. That is a big part of the game, so you're going to be patient and make sure you guarantee the fact that you get it. If someone goes for an attack and then you dodge it, you can dodge to the side and then buffer in your super and just deck the holy hell out of them. It looks really impressive when it happens. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to play against the developers when all that stuff was going on, because they had a better understanding of the mechanics, and they were surprised to see me like sort of adopt and pick up this stuff that was kind of hard to do really fast. And it's just because I've been exposed to so many fighting games. But it just led to cool moments where I'm able to, with the devs playing, show off a lot of how the combat's going to feel initially with Samurai Shodown. Whether or not it's going to evolve and change and do all this stuff, that is the whole point of fighting games. Right now, we just get to see the core mechanics in play. And I think there's even some stuff I haven't even mentioned that's in there, but the nice thing is that you have a wide variety of taking damage away from the opponent, and it's not super hard to do, while there is some super motions that are like, I think they were fireball back to forward, or fireball forward to back. Something like that. It was like a kind of like a classic SNK motion. And then the more traditional super motions were kind of like double fireball forward and with a couple of attack buttons. But to be completely honest, the thing that I found the most exciting was the defensive mechanics. Being able to dodge, being able to just defend, being able to like run was sort of an offensive mechanic, and being able to do things to sort of deflect the opponent's actions led to some pretty exciting stuff when it did take place. The characters, they didn't have the entirety of the roster. There's actually a trailer that I made a reaction video for that I didn't get a chance to see until today that has a lot more characters and shows off a lot of really cool stuff that I'm gonna have to put up at a later date. We did not have access to all those characters. It was essentially like Nakaruru and Charlotte and Genjiro, Halmaru, Galford, and Jubei is who is in the roster right now. And I would probably say I really enjoyed playing Jubei, like the two-handed swordsman. He was a lot of fun to play. A lot of stuff just seemed to work. He had good pokes that you could cancel into his fireballs. Galford's gonna take some time. Like, the dog does lead to some cool combo opportunities. The dog will grab you and put you in a stun state. But there is some, like, when you actually do the supers, there's a, like that activation super, then there's like a regular super that you can do that uses a different kind of gauge. And then there's also a super, one that you only get if, like, the gauge is maxed out that does insane damage. I think it had a different name than supers, but they were kind of describing it as that. And those are, like, the big, crazy cinematic things. The activation supers are the ones where you see the screen go black and white, there's a big splash of blood. Those are the not too difficult to execute ones. But there's ones where, like, the camera gets insane and is swooping around and doing all this insane, crazy stuff. It looks very cool. I'd say in terms of some other stuff, the gore in the game is very similar to the gore that you might remember from previous Samurai Showdowns. Yes, you can cut a character like Nakaruru in half, but you're not going to get a lot of like visceral gore like a Mortal Kombat game. It is to the point of which it's just like old Sam Show. If you cut a character in half, their body splits into two and then hits the ground and then flashes away. So it's not like there's huge blood bursts everywhere. There is some stuff very similar to the old games, and then the body like cuts in half and they fall on the ground. But it is not graphically violent. It has definitely got some moments where they, just as I was anticipating, they definitely play up the gore in many fashions, and I like that. But it's not going to be like disgusting, you know what I mean? Like there's some disgusting things in Mortal Kombat games, and they sort of play that up for the sake of like shock value and shock factor. And I don't think you're really gonna have to worry about it in this game if you're squeamish about that, but at least it still feels hella gory. I know I put this one last, but everyone's gonna be asking about it. Visually, I really like the way the game looks. The footage that you're seeing on YouTube is, like most fighting games now when they come out, doesn't really do it justice. And I'm gonna put this up looking as good as I possibly can, but I'm gonna get some more gameplay showing up later that's gonna be rendered at a bit higher of a bit rate so that you guys can see it looking better and a higher resolution. But I was really impressed with the way the character models worked, the way with like the motions and animations, and the way everyone looked. I thought just was great. Like it really just felt like an old Samurai Showdown done in the modern age. And yeah, there's some similarities to Street Fighter 4 in some ways, but this game takes that like the art aesthetic, like the moving painting aesthetic was only in Street Fighter a little bit, like with focus attacks. In this game, it's just all over the damn place. Like, you really get these close-ups on these characters that you get to see a lot of their character models and how they look and the shader engine, and it is a very pretty looking game, and anytime you slowed it down or paused it, it looked like a moving art piece, and that's really damn cool. It's meant to emulate that classic look of, you know, old samurai and like classic feudal Japan art pieces and paintings, but done with like a very hyper SNK anime style. And I like it. I like it a lot. I thought all the characters look great. And I think it's going to look even better when it comes out on PC eventually, because the game is only coming out on PS4 and Xbox One to start. And I believe the Switch version is on the horizon too, but they said that's going to be a little bit later. So that's good that it's going to be on multiple systems. I just really want to see this game running at like, yeah, 1440p on PC. I very much like the way it looked. So I'm more excited for Samurai Shodown now than even when I was like over the past few months. We've been waiting to see a lot on this game, and I don't even think it's that far out from coming out. So let's hope the netcode's good. Let's hope they've made strides and improvements over the previous games. That was the one thing I did express to them with the time I had with the developers, is hopes that, you know, matchmaking and ranked matchmaking and player matches, all that stuff works a bit smoother than the previous game if they have the time to put those efforts in. And let's hope that does come true, because that was one of the things that was more difficult about KOF 14, was how sort of the online function and the matchmaking. So got hopes for that. I got a lot of hopes for other characters. We know a lot of other characters that are going to be in it, like Ukyo and Tam Tam, and a lot of other characters that weren't in the build that I played, and even some other ones that have not even been discussed yet. But that's in the trailer. I'll have another reaction video to the trailer coming up really soon. So don't go anywhere, dudes. Thank you a ton for watching. I'll be back with more Samurai Shodown as soon as possible, including a whole bunch more gameplay running at ridiculously high resolution. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.